Hey everyone, welcome to this video. In this video, we are going to talk about this feature by Claude, which is called as Claude Skills. So, Claude Skills is a feature that basically lets you teach Claude your exact processes, your tone, your format, and your instructions, and it remembers it forever. So, no re-explaining required every time you do a new chat. So, what is a skill? Uh, we can think of skill as a plain language file that teaches Claude exactly how to handle a task, your way, your standards, every single time. So what we can define in a skill are basically a step-by-step instructions. So for example, the exact workflow for a task. We can define the quality criteria, what a finished correct result looks like. We can define the format, tone, and voice. So how the output should sound and look like. And also we can give it some domain expertise, like the specialist knowledge behind the task. So now let's look at why a one-time skill beats re-explaining, yourself every time in a chat. So without a skill, Claude is brilliant, but it's generic by default. You rebrief the same context in every session, and there's a chances that quality drifts between chats and teammates. But with a skill, it operates like a trained specialist instantly. Zero rebriefing, every session, every chat. It gives you consistent quality shared across your whole team. Now let's talk about where to find skills. So if you go to the top left corner, you can open it in your browser as well as in your desktop app. So I currently have Claude in my as a desktop application. So if you go to the top left corner and you click on customize, you will find at the top something called as skills. Click on it. Now, if you see here, there's a section called as personal skills, and I already have some skills here. So now let's build one like genuinely useful skill, something that takes messy meeting notes and then turns them into a clean summary with action items. So here's the idea: you paste in rough notes, like half sentences or shorthand, whatever you actually type during the call. It pulls out what was decided and a clear list of who's doing what and by when. So we will give it a rule saying that if nobody assign an owner or a deadline, it won't guess one. It will just mark it as to be decided instead. Okay. So what we do is we go here, we click on this plus sign, and then we click on create skill, and then we click on write skill instructions. So now let's give it a name. We'll keep the name as meeting notes generator. Okay. And then let's give it a description. Uh, let's give it a description something like turn rough, messy meeting notes or a transcript into a clean summary with key decisions and action items. Use this whenever someone pastes the meeting notes, a transcript, or shorthand from a call and wants it cleaned up or summarized or turned into action items. Let me just remove this part. Okay. Now we will give the instructions. So what we give in the instructions is something like we'll give it first what I do. So in the what I do section, we'll give it something like take rough meeting notes, fragments, shorthand, half sentences, and turn them into a short, clean summary what was decided and what happens next. Then, what we tell it is the process. So, in the process section, we give it a step by step process. So, first, it should read the raw notes or transcript, then, it should pull out anything that was actually decided. Third is pull out action items, what needs to happen, who's doing it, and by when. If an owner or deadline wasn't mentioned, mark it as to be decided. Never invent one by its own. And then write a short overview, 2 3 sentences max. Then we give it an output format. So the output format here is important. So the result that it will give us uh, will be as per this output format. Okay. So In the output format, we give it a summary. First, we have the summary section in which we give 2 3 sentence overview of the meeting. Then we have the key decisions sections where what was decided on the meeting, and then we have the action item sections where it will tell the task and who will be the owner, and the due date. Okay. In the next section, let's give it some rules. The rules that it should follow every time the skill is triggered. So, first rule is never invent who is responsible for a task. If no name was mentioned, just write to be decided. Second rule is never invent a deadline. If no date was mentioned, just write to be decided. And then don't add attendees or decisions that weren't actually in the notes. And in the fourth rule, we give it as keep the summary to 2 to 3 sentences. This is a recap, not a rewrite of the whole meeting. Okay. And then in the next section, we'll give it some trigger notes. Okay. On when this skill should get triggered. So in this, we'll give it some trigger phrases like turn this meeting notes into a summary, or make action items from this transcript, or clean up this notes from a meeting, or summarize this meeting and list to what needs to happen next. And after this, we'll just click on create. So now if you see, our new skill has been added and it's ready to use. So now, what we shall do is we'll open a new chat window. Okay, so now let's try out the new skill that we built. Okay, so what we should give it some example. So something like, so I give it text something like quick sync today. Sarah will send the updated budget by Friday. We decided to go with the blue logo design. Mike still needs to confirm the venue, no date set yet. Overall, good progress, on track for launch. Clean this up for me. So let's see if the skill that we created gets triggered. So if you see in its thinking, it's showing there that it sees there's a skill available for cleaning up meeting notes, the meeting notes generator. So it says that it will look into it. And if you see, it created this summary based on, the format that we define inside the skill.md file. So this is like a basic example of how skill can be used within the chats. So if you look at the structure, a short summary up top, the actual decision pulled out, and 2 action items below it. So, and here the Sarah's task has a real deadline, Friday, but Mike's doesn't because nobody gave it one. It marked that as to be decided instead of making up a date. That's the rule which is actually working and which we defined in our skill.md file. So that's the build. Messy notes in, a clean recap out, and it's honest about the one thing it didn't actually know. So this is how we can use skills, a very basic example of it. So that's a real skill like made from nothing, ready to actually use. And if you want to go further, like editing skills, the best practices for creating skills, so I'll cover that in the upcoming videos. If you have not subscribed yet, please subscribe and see you in next one. Thank you.